great segue into something that I just really wanted to react to with you guys. Gavin will probably also want to react to this with you guys, so double up. We'll get a little both react along. I don't know if I'm going to cut clips of any of this. I don't know if it'll be on Casa del Vanguard. I don't know if it'll just be for members after this stream is over. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please chat, because I do not have anyone to talk to here with me today, so I'll be trying to pay attention to chat and respond to any questions you guys might have in the meantime. But yeah, this was super fun. Got a message from a little birdie the other day that was like, oh, hey, they reacted to your stuff on Majority Report. And I had to check it out. And of course, I'm really excited to react to this with you guys.
Credit where credit's due. That's what this
segment's about.
This segment's about. As you know, we have been talking about Project 2025 for, I don't know, probably a year at this point. And it has been accelerated by the entry in whatever it was, June or July or August, of the crypto tech bros, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Andreessen et al., who also had a similarly aligned incentive structure to attack the federal government. Look, Steve Bannon said this in 2017 at CPAC, maybe in February of 2017. And this has been out there.
Vogt talked about traumatizing federal workers.
And he and Vogt worked for an outfit. He was doing this in conjunction with the Heritage Society, but he was
Heritage Foundation.
Heritage Foundation.
His think tank was called the Center for Renewing America.
A lot of people speculating that I'm leaving the left. I'm actually leaving Kansas City to go be Nomiki Konst and Bill de Blasio's third.
For Renewing America. That was basically the Trump administration in exile. All right. So here is a clip from the Vanguard about people who were in Project 2025 denial.
So if you just type in TYT Project 2025, beautifully, the first search result, Trump's plan is not Project 2025. Who could believe it? That's crazy. Let's take a quick look and see exactly, what Anna had to say in this clip. Then we're going to take a look at one more.
So I totally believe this reporting. I think this is actually accurate reporting. And if reporters didn't just serve as stenographers for the Democratic Party, they would have maybe found out there's a different think tank that literally has the same slogan as Donald Trump. And they might have reported on that ahead of time instead, but they didn't. Go ahead.
And the people at the Majority Report, I think it was Matt, making a production decision. They were like, we want to feature the more handsome of the Vanguard. So they've got Gavin's luscious long blogs. They were like, this guy's disgusting. He's just slobbering and eating during the production. Let's cut him out of half of a frame. No, I'm just kidding.
His top staffers were connected to it, including Kellyanne.
So this video is about how there's another plan that's, way less concerning than Project 2025. That, all these liberals in mainstream media and all these Democrats, they're freaking out and they want to fear.
It's like Gavin's still here to co-host with me. I can still interrupt him.
Monger about Project 2025, but in reality, there's this other one that Kellyanne Conway is behind or something, and it's way less scary. It's way less scary. Actually, if Trump gets into power, it might not even be that dramatic at all. It's probably just going to be like any other Republican administration, right?
Yeah, I remember we reacted to this at the same time, and to Cenk's credit, this was before he had gone so soft on MAGA. He's actually pushing back on her from what I remember in this clip.
No, he's not. No? This one, he's not. There were other ones where he did. In this one, no, he goes on to say, yep, this is the real plan. I think we can watch him say that right here.
The real essence of Silly and Billy. Me being like, oh, what about this? And Gavin being like, that's not a bad idea, but no, that's not correct.
Way, etc. So these guys are definitely in charge. And one of the Trump staffers on his campaign team said, they're not the transition team, but they kind of are. They said, he said, in effect, they are. They've got, because we didn't have time to plan it. And here's a hilarious part of the story before I get to the worst part of the story. They said Trump is superstitious, so he didn't want to talk about a transition team at all before he won, which then greatly delays them.
Either way, that's the main part of that one.
First off, I didn't know, we hadn't played that last part. Any 5 minutes worth of reporting beforehand knew that Russell Vogt and the Heritage Foundation was literally building a dossier. I mean, we saw ads They were literally like the Coalition Provisional Authority going into Iraq. We saw ads of them saying like, come in and apply.
And I will give Gavin his flowers. That was his segment, and he really did pull the receipts heavy from TYT. Absolutely laid them out. And it is crazy, guys, if we take a moment and just reflect on the fact that after we already had 4 years of Donald Trump, we already had 4 years of austerity. What did Donald Trump do for working people during his first term at all? He gave us the checks. He gave us the checks. Here's what happened with the checks. I loved the checks. I think we should give people more checks, right? Gavin and I have really had it out over the years when it comes to something like UBI, right? But for the most part, I think that just stimulating the economy by giving people money is good, right? I have some caveats when it comes to the fact that if we did it on a permanent scale, landlords would find a way to build that into your rent and steal it from you. But I don't have any problem stimulating the economy with checks, right? That is the number one thing that people point to when they think about Donald Trump. That is the number one success he had. Out of anything that he did, that polled probably the best. How could it not, right? He gave people money. How did we get that? Well, we were in the middle of an absolute global crisis, and basically Nancy Pelosi dared him to, right? Never in a million years would she have thought he would have actually gone along with it, because who does Donald Trump serve? The same people that Nancy Pelosi serves at the end of the day, right? Just on the different end of the table, right? Imagine a long table, one of those super cold, like it's lit by 2 narrow candles. Count Olaf lives there, right? And he sits far away from you. Okay, Count Orlok. I think I called him Count Olaf. You guys are getting the idea, right? They're all eating from the same table. They're all serving the same folks. She dared him to do it. He called her bluff. They ended up doing something good for the American people, only on accident, right? But you can't really tout it as a policy achievement that Donald Trump delivered for the working man. He ran really hard against NAFTA, slammed Hillary for all of the feelings that people had that were anti-NAFTA from Bill Clinton's era, right? Rightfully so. But then what did he do? He did the U.S. Mexico-Canada agreement, which was basically a new NAFTA. It was no better for workers. He outsourced jobs, right? He did all kinds of horrible things for the economy. And really the only thing he delivered on was a tax cut for the rich. All of that being a long-winded way of saying Cenk should have known so much better that what the Heritage Foundation wants is what Donald Trump wants, right? And it is so crazy that they decided to run cover over that specific issue, when if you look back at TYT's history, they've done a good job of always dogging the Heritage Foundation. That used to be bread and butter for them. That used to be almost as frequent as like dogging on some shit that came from PragerU. You know what I mean? Just Heritage Foundation's deeply embedded in the Republican Party austerity measures and has been for decades now. Like the idea that Donald Trump would be breaking from that as he is the power leader of the Republican Party, it just doesn't make sense, right? Which is why a lot of people were skeptical and giving them the side eye when they were trying to defend it in the first place, Gavin and I included.
We need to check all your social media to make sure that you are a loyalist. We're putting you in a file. We'll contact you after. Like the idea.
In October, right? ProPublica released a video, and the quote was, "We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, when we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma." So that, in conjunction with the fact that Vote had previously worked in the Trump administration, and that Project 2025 was authored by over 100 people who had previously worked in the Trump administration, should probably give you an indication that they were very serious about implementing this. And then remember Matt Walsh, MAGA troll, after the election? We don't need to pull it up. People can find it. But he said like, oh, here it is. Thank you, Bradley.
Yeah, we played that in our original clip too. But anyway, pretty cool that they're out here repping the Vanguard over on the Majority Report. A lot of people don't take the Vanguard seriously, right? I'm not going to go so far as to say that anybody at the Majority Report takes the Vanguard seriously, but it's nice to know that they don't think so little of us that they wouldn't play our content, right? And we've had good chats with Sam and Emma on multiple occasions, actually, both of them repeat offenders over here on the Vanguard. Now, I wanted to keep that one a little short and sweet in case Gavin also wants to react to it. That's more of a victory lap for him. He was the one that cut and pulled that segment, but I couldn't resist because I was like, holy shit, this is really cool. Our show was on the Majority Report. Big come up for us. One thing I did want to get to that I'm not sure anybody else has been talking about, and that's the fact that John Iadarola is starting to become an increasingly hot water with the diehard defenders he has his diehard defenders, but even then the walls are starting to crack. Let me rephrase that. John Iadarola is in hot water with people who love his show but hate TYT. How about that? It's way harder to do the show by myself. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, The reality is TYT, after denying Project 2025, after saying that there weren't going to be concentration camps at Guantanamo Bay. Now we know there are going to be concentration camps at Guantanamo Bay. We know that they're going to do Project 2025. We now have Elon Musk as like a puppet dictator, right? A foreign national running our government, who happens to be the richest man in the world, who just gave himself another $400 million in a contract that Drop Site News just broke the other day. They changed the legalese around it, I believe, in response to the reporting that was done by Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill over there. And now it's kind of hidden and a little more covert. But essentially what he's doing is he is raiding the government for more funding for his companies, and he is cutting every loose end everywhere else. So he doesn't care about the Department of Education, right? Linda McMahon is going to be confirmed just so she can oversee the gutting of the public education system, right? He doesn't care about OSHA. He hates OSHA, right? He doesn't care about the NLRB. He hates the NLRB. He's not going to give funding to working people. He's not going to give funding to sick people. He's not going to fund cancer research. He's going to fund SpaceX. He's going to fund, his internet companies. He's going to fund whatever startups he thinks he can milk for cash. Anyway, the walls have been really burning at TYT for a long time. It has been a long time coming that anyone with progressive bona fides has probably got to say their goodbyes. Now, I've been really reluctant to push for this on this show, and I'm still not going to. A job's a job, a job, right? John Iadarola has worked so hard over at the Damage Report to build it into what it is. Let me go ahead and check really quickly and see how many subscribers. Over 1 million subscribers for the Damage Report. That's a 1 million subscriber channel that is for John Iadarola, right? So it would be ludicrous for me to sit here as a guy who doesn't even have 100,000 subs to my name, right? Half of that really because Gavin, obviously, and really more like 45% because Gavin's put a lot of work into this fucking channel. You know what I mean? And we don't even have close to that. So it would be nothing but hubris. It would be wrong. It would be totally out of hand for me to come up here and be like, John should quit. John should leave TYT. But I do think there needs to be more of a discussion for what happens with the true, authentic, reasonable voices over at TYT. Now that they're awash with Polymarket money, right? Now that they're awash with, really corporate, shady, Peter Thiel funded, illegal in the United States Polymarket money, and not just Polymarket money that is smearing other leftists, right? Gavin cut a clip of this the other day before he fell ill. Bertie sent us this. Did Kamala Harris buy ads on the Majority Report, right? Does that sound familiar? It might, because guess what? Anna Kasparian tweeted it the other day. This is her running a different correction, but we can, but you guys remember, let me see if I can find it really quickly. Anna Kasparian Majority Report Kamala ad. Let's see. Here we go. Emma, you should probably be open about this Harris campaign's ad buy on the Majority Report too. Maybe that's why you were cheering so hard for a woman who shooed away any left-wing activists who wanted to ask her legitimate questions about her foreign policy in the Middle East. So here it is, a blatant smear. And now from the Polymarket studios, we see it appear right over here. Polymarket. Did Kamala Harris buy ads on the Majority Report? 7% say yes. And it looks like you can trace it back to February the 3rd. Okay. Now let's go back and see really quickly. When did Anna's tweet come up? Oh God. See, this is why it's no fun when you do a show by yourself, because you have to pull everything up every time. February 2nd, right? So the day after this tweet, we've got Polymarket placing a bet on its market for did Kamala Harris. That's all it took, was somebody who is being bankrolled, financed, and paid by Polymarket Studios to get a bet on there. And it looks like only one person ever decided to spend money on it, right? A very, very low popularity. It's only done $1,271 in trade volume. That is nothing for Polymarket, but I do think it's more than a little suspicious. that, this all happened. And one more time for the people in the back, this is Anna admitting she was wrong about Project 2025.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
So I just want to address something. I was wrong about Project 2025. MAGA hates Project 2025, and I thought that Donald Trump actually cared about his base because in his first term, he seemed to be swayed by his base. He seemed to listen to his base. This time around, not so much. So Russell Vought, as the head of the Office of Management and Budget, and considering what he just did with the consumer finance.
Right. So anyway, all that context, right? You could see why people are pretty frustrated with the Young Turks, not to mention the way that Francesca Fiorentini was treated, not to mention the way that their union efforts were treated, right? Gavin and I have been on this beat for a long time. We always get chats about it. Why are you guys covering this all the time? Because we have been sowing these seeds for a very long time. And we believe when the most powerful progressive media company on YouTube, on New Independent Media, which is one of the most powerful forces in all of politics, right? We have to understand that, right? More people are watching YouTube than are watching cable. That's for sure. So we need to be competing here. And when you have 6 million subscribers, that automatically gives you clout. And when you are out here validating horrid conservative talking points like, oh, the fires were started by homeless people smoking drugs. Oh, we need to spend more money on cops in Los Angeles. Oh, Rick Caruso, billionaire real estate developer. That's the guy for Los Angeles mayor. It would have been one thing if they had supported a long shot progressive candidate that had no chance of winning and then decided to, from the left, constantly criticize Karen Bass. I would have no problem with that. If they'd stuck their necks out there and been like, no, this is our mayoral candidate for Los Angeles. The Young Turks is going to organize. We're going to have events. We're going to be at places. We're going to door knock. We're going to make this leftist candidate ours. And we're going to uplift them because we cannot get behind Karen Bass. We think that she reeks of corporate liberalism. We do not think that she has the people of Los Angeles' best interest at heart. I would agree with all those things and I would applaud their efforts, right? What they did was they went with the even more corporate guy, the guy that hated homeless people even more than Karen Bass does, the guy who wanted nothing good for Los Angeles except to privatize it even further, the guy who paid for private fire trucks to use the limited water to fucking protect his shopping center that he owned during the Palisade fires just a few months ago. Bad people. They took $20 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg, right? What happened after that? They started parroting a lot of anti-homeless rhetoric. You know who says a lot of anti-homeless things? Jeffrey Katzenberg, right? You can't call yourself independent media while taking billionaire money. They do it all the time. So the chickens are starting to come home to roost. And this isn't the first time we've brought it up on our channel, but we've been getting more and more calls to address it. And I think it's really starting to crack. We know that they're in bad financial straits over at the Young Turks. We know that they're not getting as many memberships as they used to. We know that they're not getting super chat as often as they used to. We know that they're not getting as much views as they once did, right? That's why they had to, stick out their hat and beg Mr. Polymarket for enough money to keep the lights on, right? Because they'd ruined their reputation with their audience. They'd absolutely belittled themselves. They had made themselves no longer synonymous with a movement, no longer synonymous with progressivism, and now they're just casting out to random YouTube audiences of politically aware individuals. That's what they're trying to do now, or worse, right-wing individuals. We haven't even gotten into Cenk's tour of breaking bread with right-wingers, hanging out with Dr. Phil after he gets back from doing ice raids. How about Anna Kasparian hanging out with Glenn? I just put out a video about going on vacations in the Gaza Strip. Beck, oh, you guys have a bunch in common. I can sit and have a reasonable chat with you, but not anybody on the left, not Mike Figueredo, not David Dole, not Emma Vigeland, who you've relentlessly smeared. So there are all these reasons that people are upset, right? I'm rambling on and on, right? Because I don't have a co-host to chime in and play the Oscar music to make me shut up and say something more interesting, right? Again, I apologize. It'll be back to normal in a few days. But let's zoom in over here on this, little innocuous message from John Iadarola. He says, read why our members trust TYT as their number one online news source. Here is a little bit of a endorsement from some random person named Jenna W. I think she's Anna Kasparian's neighbor Jeff's wife. So shout out to Jenna. Really appreciate that. Anyway, you read the comment section down here, guys. It ain't looking good, okay? People aren't happy. And when you make a post on your YouTube channel, here's something that I can tell you guys from the inside. I love making YouTube posts. You know why? Because the people who watch our show the most, and who want to engage with me and Gavin the most, those are the people that respond to your YouTube posts. The people who respond to your YouTube posts are your base. That's your community. That's your crew, right? When I think of the Vanguard community, I think of the people who are willing to respond to our posts, the people who want to send us messages, the people who want to interact with us the most deeply, right? Those are the people that you really value their opinion. So if Gavin and I made a post and we were just getting absolutely railed by the comments on that post, we would be like, we fucked up. We're going to have to talk to our audience and explain where our headspace was and why we thought this was a good idea. Clearly, you guys feel something else, because you can be transparent and nobody's perfect. And most audiences on YouTube, if they're your hardcore people, they believe you, they trust you, right? So you can just go out there and be transparent. John, he's in a little bit of a different situation over here, right? Because he's kind of tried to ostrich his way out of this. He's tried to stick his head in the sand and do a good job. And I can't blame him for the guy for that, because he's, this is something he's worked hard for and he doesn't want to see it slip away. But it's my job to document the decline of TYT. It's my job to be a media critic. And as a result of all of those very valid criticisms that I just laid out for you guys, that Gavin and I have steadfastly documented the receipts for all this time, well, his audience is starting to revolt, guys, and it ain't looking good. So this is the first one. Damage report is excellent. The main show, however, is so frustratingly soft on Trump and the fascists, it's almost comical at this point. Anna and Cenk are now reduced to mere chuckles at all the horrors coming out of the mouth of the orange man. They don't seem to be concerned about the actual danger of this administration anymore. That's not a mean comment. That's not a super hateful comment. That's not a triggered individual. That's somebody who is trying to relay valid, thoughtful criticism back to John Iadarola. Again, that is the kind of content that that I would read as a content creator and be like, okay, I need to consider that, right? A lot of people who are content creators, they don't read any of this stuff. I am someone who I read every last thing. Sometimes I get angry and I respond to people when I shouldn't. But I think that's a byproduct of letting you guys know I'm transparent and I actually care what you think. I love the damage report and appreciate everything John has been a part of, but I can't support TYT right now. A lot of people are saying we wish we could support just John Iadarola. This person explicitly saying it's time to break ranks, John. Your show is the only TYT one I still check in with anymore. Cenk ran me off years ago, so I missed Anna's fall. Francesca gives me hope. And guys, Francesca hardly collaborates with TYT at all anymore. If Francesca is the thread keeping you there, you can go ahead and cut it, because you have two places to support Francesca Fiorentini. And throughout this process, I think it's really important that we talk about, hey, we need to make sure that when these people do leave TYT, you send them $5-10 a month. Whatever you were giving TYT, don't forget to send to these people, because it's so scary and it's so hard and it's so uncertain when you leave a real paycheck, a steady relationship. I think it's bullshit that Francesca was never even getting healthcare from TYT. This is, all these things, all these compounding reasons, right? So you got to make sure that you support her either over at the Bitchuation Room, probably her Patreon over there, best way to do it. But even over on Zateo, make sure you watch that. It's important to show that no matter where Francesca goes, there's an audience of people who are curious to hear her insights. And the same will be true for John, I promise. But we've got more. Every TYT show is full of talented and trustworthy people, except for the main show. Cenk and even more so Anna have lost the plot. So again, these are more people growing frustrated with the leadership of TYT. And Cenk and Anna are the executive producers, right? They're the people who run the business apparatus. Supposedly they have 75 employees. I don't believe that for a second. I think they probably have like 25 employees and they can barely afford to pay that. You should probably take notice of all the coming comments. Probably time to jump ship. Damage report, yes. TYT, hell to the no. Maybe in 2019. Not TYT. I will no longer support TYT because of the crap they pulled. I can't support Cenk and Anna. All kinds of stuff. I love you, John, and many others on the damage report like Francesca, but I hope you're able to escape while you can. IDK, what type of NDA you signed? And I know you're providing for your daughter, but just know that Dragon Squad has your back, Dragon Daddy. 17 comments in so far. 16 anti-Cenk and Anna. One from a guy who wrote a novella that says we all must return to Allah. Mark me as the 17th to say I support the damage report and not the bad joke TYT has become. So we don't have to read these comments all day. You guys get the picture. People are pissed off. They are demanding that John go somewhere else. Now, it's not my...
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola.
I totally understand why he is staying at TYT up until this point. I totally understand why he sees the best in Cenk and Anna. He's been there for so long, and he also kind of exists in his cubby. So let me give you guys the steel man for why John Iadarola, has every right to stay at TYT. And then I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the good reasons for him to leave and start his own show. So for one, how many of you guys out there have a boss that you do not agree with politically? You are a democratic socialist. You might be a communist. You might be a leftist Democrat, right? You might be any number of those things in tuning into this show, right? And your boss might be a Republican. They might be a corporate liberal. They might be a NIMBY liberal like Anna Kasparian, right? And so you say, okay, well, I would never relent and agree to them in a debate on air, which I think John Iadarola does a good job. He pushes back on Cenk. He pushes back on Anna when they have exchanges. I think that's why they don't have very many exchanges anymore with him, frankly. I think the last time that they did and he pushed back, it was uncomfortable for everyone. And so he has kind of been relegated to his damage report corner. I don't think he minds that. If I was John, that is what the fuck I would want to do. I'd be like, guys, listen to me. I don't know what's going on everywhere else. Follow the damage report. I promise you my resolve will never waver. For example, I know that he put out a statement saying, hey guys, I love trans people. I don't have a single problem with any trans person. I want my audience to feel like everybody is a part of our community, and I would never exclude anyone, and I would never judge anyone based off of anything like that. And so he has tried to distance himself from the messaging of the main channel. And I think through his eyes, he's like, listen, guys, this is my job, right? I come here, I do this job. No matter where I go in media, which there's not very many places to go, there's almost nowhere to go, particularly if you want to do what John is doing, right? So he's in one of the best opportunities he has to make a difference, right? He has a large platform. He's able to provide for his family. He lives in sunny Los Angeles, right? These are all really good things. And he does incredible work. So before I came out here and I said, hey, here are some reasons why I think it might be worth it to branch out, because like the Titanic, the ship is going down. We also have to remember, built up 1 million subs, has a close personal relationship, not just with Cenk and Anna, but to all of the folks that work at TYT. And when you have been in pursuit of building something like that, it really strengthens your bond, right? It really connects you to somebody, right? And so I feel like he probably feels really warmly and like he wants to give the benefit of the doubt to everybody at TYT. And I think he wants to give them time to right the ship. All of those things totally valid. Again, it would be gauche. It would be totally out of hand for me to come here and call on him to resign or anything like that. But it is not out of hand for me to do my job and say, hey, guys, these are a lot of problems. A lot of people are saying you might want to move on. Now, here's my advice for why he might want to move on. One, it's if you have an audience of people who really want to listen to you, who care what you have to say, you don't really need the 1 million subs. To be honest, John, I think that 1 million subs might be doing you more harm than good right now, and I'll tell you why. I think if you have 1 million subscribers, most of them legacy subscribers, I would say based off of the views that I've seen the damage report get, totally respectable views. That's around 500,000 sub channels view counts, right? 300, 400,000 sub channel view counts. And so what he's doing is he's carrying a lot of dead subscriber weight. So his videos are getting shown to accounts that are no longer really interested in politics. Most of their YouTube algorithm is sending them somewhere else, right? So it makes it harder for you to have breakout videos. That's something that happens to a lot of channels in progressive media, because you'll get a bunch of people who want to watch you, for example, in like the Bernie era. And then those people tune out, right? Because they don't care about politics after that Bernie thing happened. Not blaming those folks, just saying a lot of people did tune out after that. So now you have dead subscribers from that era. I think if John left TYT, he would immediately become one of the big powerhouse political streamers on YouTube. And I think he is uniquely suited to have a transition that is quite graceful, like Crystal Ball and Sagaran Jetty did when they left TYT. I think there would be nothing but praise for the guy if he said, listen, I'm a dad. I have a family. I have obligations. I need to have health insurance. That is the big one, guys. And I think that's the one thing that we haven't really talked about enough. I imagine for John Iadarola, he has great health insurance. So it's not like, oh, he could make $90,000 a year in Patreon subs. But how is he going to pay for health insurance that's high quality? Because that gets very expensive very fast. So, you'd have to really figure out a way for him to launch comfortably and launch as a business. And all those kinds of things are very hard decisions, and maybe something that he doesn't feel like he's suited towards. So again, I want to show all sides of the ball. But what I will say is it's going to get harder and harder and harder for him to defend his position there. And I also just think it's going to be harder and harder for TYT to sustain itself. So I think best case scenario is he's able to negotiate a way where he buys the channel from Cenk and Anna as they go under and can't really afford to pay him anymore, which would be something that could potentially be on the horizon if TYT continues to run itself into the ground. So again, this is just speculation from over here. But if I were him, I would be thinking a lot about my future, and it would not be with TYT. And I can't imagine that he's not doing that. So with all that being said, that's the end of the TYT stuff I had for all of you guys.